Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, a show dedicated to helping you expand your capacity, take your life in every area to an entirely new level, and creating a day and a life by design. Here's your host, Dan Hafner. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Day podcast. As always, your host, Dan Hafner here, creator of the Runwage app and host of this podcast. Today's topic is this: what's really holding you back? As always, I appreciate you all joining. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. All right, my friends. So this is actually a little bit of a teaser episode, I should say. I did a interview for another episode coming up here in the near future with a man by the name of David Essel. So I would highly encourage you to keep your eyes and ears peeled to the Run Your Day podcast future episodes here within the next week or two. That episode will be dropping, and it's awesome. It's a little bit longer. We went for about 45 minutes, I believe it was. But man, like that was some value-packed stuff. And this is kind of what inspired me to come on and talk about this idea of what's holding you back, right? So for those of you that have been following the show, I apologize. There hasn't been a show in the past 4 or 5 days. But once again, I was moving. There was another uprooting of the Hafner Kingdom Castle, right? And we had to move to a new house and everything. So it's been crazy. That's been a lot of work, but we're kind of getting settled in now. There's still a lot of stuff everywhere, but I'm taking a few minutes here to touch base with you guys and tell you a little bit about this. So during this interview, and I don't want to ruin the stuff with David as well, but we talked about this piece of, it had a lot of stories in there, right? And we talked about this piece of why people tend to not be able to push through different barriers in their life, like whatever area of your life it might be. You might even be blind to something that you're not actually that you have, but you don't actually see it, right? He talked about people that are super ripped and shredded that just don't see their body as something that's beautiful, right? Whereas somebody that's fat and overweight would see that body and be like, oh my God, like that's beautiful, right? But those people that have it, they're so used to it, they're so engrossed in something else in their life that they don't even recognize that they have a body that's beautiful and sculpted and perfect, right? Or maybe somebody has great children or a great marriage, but they don't appreciate it because it's just the norm. It's just always been that way. So to someone else looking from the outside in that's in a crappy marriage or has rebellious kids or whatever the case might be, they get super jealous of that, and they're like, wow, like that's, you don't even realize what you have, right? I think that happens because we tend to see things that we're missing in our life, right? We tend to see the highlighted things in other people that we lack within ourselves. And in the interview with David, we'll go a little bit more into that. But then we talked about this really, really interesting concept, which I want to share more deeply with you guys today, was this topic of what's holding you back, right? So there was a lot of stories he shared. And I saw a common theme come up in all of these, right? And there's always this thing, this belief, this story, whatever you want to call it, that holds people back from achieving something that they've always wanted to do, right? And I'm a case study number one inside of this, right? And man, I really want to talk about this. I don't really want to ruin the episode with David because I'm telling you, you got to listen to it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But kind of in a nutshell, right? The power of belief is so strong within your subconscious mind that you will start to believe things without even realizing you believe them, right? So if you never can truly program your brain to be fit and be healthy, you're never going to actually be healthy. So that's why, people with New Year's resolutions and people that go on weight loss diets, they're so short-lived in the bulk, right? Like by and large, maybe you're someone that sticks with it, but they're so short-lived because you don't actually give them enough time to become solid, perpetual habits in your life that actually cause real change within the subconscious mind of your brain. Now, again, I know you guys should probably know by now if you've listened, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not accredited in this. I'm not anything like that. This is just me talking from my own experience, right? But I think there's solid foundation and there's truth in this, right? Because I've seen this in my life. Like I used to be someone that would just be like, you know what? I got a good idea. I got inspiration from someone. I'm going to implement that in my life. And then like 3 days later, I'm like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't have the willpower to do it. Whether it was losing weight or doing a different thing in business um, or something in marriage or relationships, right? And what was interesting was I would stick with something for like 2 to 3 days. I'd start to either see some results with it or I wouldn't see results with it and then I quit. And be like, well, that's not really working for me. But what I wasn't realizing was that, the beliefs and the stories and the things that were running my life had taken root over years. Like almost the entire course of my life up to that point. So how was I expecting to change things in several days? Right? Like you can't fight, you can't like an army with 3 guys isn't going to be able to beat an army with 30,000 guys, right? Unless you're like freaking superhero or something. So when it comes to this change and these things that hold you back, right? And this is kind of what we talked about a little bit was, when you try to quote run your day, when you try to take charge of things, when you try to create this life by design, it's actually not as hard as it seems when there's nothing holding you back. Right? That's the biggest piece. Like anyone can plan their day, anyone can um change their focus, can start focusing on the most important things that need to be done. That's not the hard part. The hard part is actually not carrying around those things that cause you pain, that cause you stress, that cause you anxiety, because that's what gets in the way of you actually doing stuff. And when this clicked for me, like it was like the biggest revelation I've ever had in my life, right? Because it's like trying to run a freaking marathon with like an 150-pound sack of bricks on your back. Right? That's what it is. That's what all of us do to some point in our daily life, right? We carry around the weight of maybe an abusive relationship in the past, or we carry the weight around, financial scarcity in our life, or we carry the weight around abuse that we've done to other people, whether it's verbal or physical or just dark things we've done, right? And what that does, and what you might not even realize, is that stuff right there is what's holding you back from having a bigger life, from making more money, from having better relationships, and from being more spiritually connected. It's that stuff. But the crazy part about it is it's so uncomfortable to actually acknowledge these things sometimes. It's so uncomfortable to go into your own recess of your own mind and find that true thing that's holding you back, that true obstacle that you need to overcome or forgive or work through. Because once you do that, it's like you're on mile 13 of the marathon and you just drop that weight, right? Imagine how you feel after you just carried around 150 pounds on your back for 13 miles and then you just drop it. Like, even though you've just run 13 miles, you're probably beat, you're tired, you're already feeling the weight of that. Like you just shed 150 pounds. You probably feel like friggin' Superman, right? I've never done this. I can only imagine with you. Like I've never run a marathon or half marathon with 150 pounds on my back, but it's just the analogy I'm using, right? So my question for you and my challenge for you. Now this is a big one. So this is not something you can just do in a day. This is not something that this is going to be a process for you. But my challenge for you is to sit down and think, right? Like what are the things that are holding me back? Like what area of my life am I not getting the results that I want to get? Is it inside of my money and my business, or is it inside of my relationship or my body or my health or my spiritual connection or my parenting or whatever it might be? Like what area are you trying to get some bigger results or make real change, okay? And what's holding you back there, right? Like, what's holding you back? Is it a belief you have about how you were raised? Is it a belief about how you believe kids should be raised? Is it a belief about how you believe a husband or wife should act? Is it something that happened to you when you were little that made you caused this belief that you have now 30 years later in your life? Right? And like I said, this is not something you can just sit down and just figure out. But I promise you, if you're willing to take the time and just play the why game, like I've talked about before, right? Once you get down to the root of this, it's just like pulling the roots of weeds out of the freaking garden, right? Just pulling and ripping them out. And it hurts and it's painful and it's not usually fun, which is why no one does it. But if you can be in the minority of people that can do this, that can take the time, I promise you that there is clarity, there is power, there is just certainty that comes from this process that you will not find anywhere else. You do not need a guru. You do not need some crazy coaching material. You just need to do this for yourself. You need to go to war with yourself, go to war with your heart, with your own mind, and figure this stuff out. And it's a process. But the more I've done this, the more I've seen other people do this, the crazier the results I've seen inside of what actually is real in their lives and in my life. So figure out what's holding you back. It might take you a week. It might take you like a month to just meditate and go through these things and comb through this with a fine-tooth comb. But I promise you, my friends, it is well worth the effort, because once you find that thing holding you back, it's like shedding that weight and you can just walk and run free. And that is how you run your day, my friends. That is how you figure stuff out. Okay. So that is all I have for you today. As I said, this is just a little bit of a teaser as to what we talked about with Mr. David Essel. And that episode is coming up here very shortly. Not sure on when that will come out, but be sure to keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, because I promise you it is 45 minutes well spent. There will be some great nuggets for you guys to take away from that one. So as always, my friends, that is all I have for you today. Head over to runyourdaypodcast.com. If you actually scroll to the bottom of the homepage there's an awesome, cool, free gift I have for you guys called the Success Habits Workbook that you can download for free. It's like 60 pages of some awesome content. So head over to runyourdaypodcast.com today. Scroll to the bottom, opt into that, and you'll get that free tool for yourself. And it is really good for you guys, I promise. All right. That is all I have for you today, my friends. As always, Dan Hafner signing off. Make it a great rest of your day. Hey, have you ever thought about joining a virtual run challenge? As COVID-19 continues to upend our lives and change our life routines, finding fresh ways to challenge yourself physically can be difficult. I know I'm having trouble with that. It can also be pretty hard to connect with others and find accountability partners for the purpose of fitness as well. That's why we created RunWage Virtual Challenges. RunWage Challenges are a new and exciting way to stay physically active and maintain social distancing. Every challenge takes place 100% online, and you can compete against and engage with runners from all over the world. Best of all, they are the only virtual challenges out there which actually reward participants with real cash. That means you have no excuse for staying inactive during this pandemic. So if you've been looking for a fresh and interesting way to stay active and get your miles in, go to runwageapp.com/virtual challenges to join me and the diverse community of runners already competing. That's runwageapp.com/virtual challenges. Can't wait to see you there.